All right, welcome back. This is episode 17 of the Orange Ball Podcast. As always, Sam, Brendan, and we are back after a, once again, great college basketball slate of last weekend and these last few days of this week.
Yeah, it's been fun, man. We're gearing towards some, kind of setting up for some big matchups coming up these next couple of weeks, and then leading into conference tournament wise. But we've seen some battles, and still at the top looks like that SEC, man. They are all of them seem to be battle tested in some way.
Yeah. Hey, but no team's pulling away. They are 82-82 in conference play. You see
Someone else threw one out there.
Carl Ravitch last night.
Come on,
and
man.
He went into it more. He's like, yeah, as you can see, like no team's pulling away from another team, and meanwhile you got like Alabama, it literally says on the scorebug 9-1, and then Texas is 5-4.
Yeah.
They are, so it's funny. Whoever started that on Twitter.
Yeah, someone put that out there, and without the intention of the national media grabbing it and thinking that's an interesting stat, when in reality it's oh man. But hey, yeah. It's been a fun league to watch, and I know I've seen a few little tidbits, but like if Duke slips up in any way, we could see 4 1-seeded SEC teams in the NCAA tournament, which would be insane.
Yeah, I don't think that's definitely never happened before.
No,
a conference has got 4 1 seeds, which would be crazy. But I don't know. I think just because they won't do that. Maybe 3.
I mean, again, one of these teams is going to lose early in the quarterfinals of that tournament, so it's just like it's pretty much impossible in that way. But I mean, you get like Auburn loses at home for the first time against Florida. Florida looks really good, and Auburn kind of backs it up with having to go to Vandy, which has been kind of a place where teams have lost this year, but they looked good last night too. So it's just all those teams in that league are really good, and Alabama can score about 105 points a game if they wanted to.
Yeah, I mean, going back to last weekend, like you said, Florida blows out Auburn on their home court after that kind of whole hyping up, people camping out.
Yeah, right.
Janai Broome going out there and playing poker. Did you see that?
Yeah. Also, I'm going to throw this out there because I saw it last night with McDermott and Creighton. Buying pizza, is that kind of a jinx? Because Calhoun did it at Utah State before the New Mexico game. They lose. Auburn, Bruce Pearl does it before the Florida game. They lose. And then McDermott last night. Belichick. Yeah. I think if you're a coach, you don't need to buy pizza for the students. I think it's kind of a bad move now.
No, it might be a jinx. But and going back to last night, the Creighton game, it was dollar beer night. The fans were getting rowdy coming in for UConn. I might be wrong, but I don't think UConn's ever won there, have they? I saw.
I think
maybe Dan Hurley's.
Yeah, I don't think under Hurley, but
UConn won. McNeely, the freshman, 38 points.
Yeah, he's really good, and he's been gone, or he's been hurt for like what? He was hurt for a stretch there. I think like 8 games. So he's kind of one of their pieces that they really need, I think.
Mm-hmm. Definitely, they've been up and down as opposed to their standards, but. Another thing I thought was funny from that game, and those refs had some balls last night. I don't know if it was the crowd or they were just giving the middle finger to Hurley, because I think Creighton in the first half had 14 fouls. And then the second half, they had 0 fouls until the 4-minute mark, which is insane.
That's crazy.
For a Big East game.
Just trying to rile up the Hurleys of the world, like, oh man, they have to. They have to have a discussion going into that game. Like, oh my God, when you get the call that you're going to having a UConn game, you're like, God, I gotta get this guy now. Like, I really like him as a coach, but he has the antics, and he's kind of played himself into this like, live long enough to see yourself become a villain type thing, and I guess he's just kind of buying into it now. He's walking off the floor, which also, for people who sit on their couch and watch basketball, imagine if someone the whole game, is chanting, go fuck yourself. We'll bleep that out later. But imagine if someone's chanting that at you for 2 hours straight it's kind of hard to be even keel, a lot of these guys. But, Hurley's just played into, like, the role of, I'm just going to throw it right back, I guess. But
and we didn't talk about this, but this was a couple weeks ago, and his brother, Bobby Hurley, I think it was the Arizona game, Arizona State. After they lost, they just walked off the court.
Yeah.
Those players get in the locker room. We're not shaking hands. So.
And I watched that game. It was like Bobby Hurley claimed that, like Arizona, they were saying a lot of words to our bench. It's a rivalry game, and both teams were John. Like, it wasn't like a one-sided affair. And I'm sure if Arizona State would have won that game, it wouldn't have been brought up, that type of thing. That's where I kind of like, all right, you lost the game, you shake hands with the opponent, and you get on with your season. But I don't know.
I mean, you battle it out on the between the lines and compete, but after.
It was a competitive game too. It wasn't like it was like, I think Caleb Love said some things to the bench when he like grabbed a rebound at the end of the game and the game was over basically. But I mean, what do you expect from a rivalry game that's massive crowd and all that? So,
but we had that game. We had in the Mountain West, San Jose is playing like the '96 Bulls in San Diego State.
Only in the first half. Both games they've played.
Yeah,
they went up like 21 in the first half down to Viejas earlier this year too.
I know it's got to be disappointing as a San Jose fan if how many of them are out there, but it looked like a good crowd for. Yeah,
and they were missing Udeji and McClellan or whatever his last name is, but like missing two starters, and also they go up 17 at half. They give up a 17-0 run to start the second half, but the game was back and forth. Like, you got to give them some credit for not just being like, well, we blew the lead, like, too bad now. Yeah. Like, they just shoot the ball. Mm-hmm. Like, you shoot it enough times, bound to go in at some point. That's kind of how they play. So it's weird. I think it's different it's a weird matchup for San Diego State because they want to play like slow it down, and San Jose just runs down and just starts launching threes. But I mean, they've done it well. They've actually won a lot of games in the league, and they're kind of tied in that. I think in the Mountain West right now, if you look at it, like the 5 teams, there's 5 teams, and then there's the rest of the league. But I mean, San Jose is kind of one of those teams that's right at the top of that second tier, basically. Did you watch like the very end, the last second? Yeah. If he would have, he almost made that. So yeah, he threw a full quarter. It was like 0.5 seconds left. San Diego State was up 3. They missed a free throw, and the guy, he lets it bounce, gets all his momentum in it. I think it would have counted. Goes off the backboard, front rim, and bounces. Yeah, here's what I didn't really like was I think San Diego State should have put guys at the line because they backed all the way off. And it was actually clever because the San Diego State guy who inbounded it, or San Jose State guy who inbounded it, kind of threw it up, and the dude set his feet like a quarterback and caught it like right here and launched it, and it hit off the back iron. Like that would have been the greatest. Hit off the backboard and off the. It was like the old Butler shot, like the off the glass and off the front of the rim. So, great. That would have been nothing new in the Mountain West, but sticking with the Mountain West, I think New Mexico has kind of asserted themselves as the cream of the crop in the league, and going to Logan and kind of beating Utah State handily, which was pretty surprising. I know they were down probably like 8 in the start of the second half, and then they just went on a run. And I think they outscored them by like 28 in the second half or something like that, which is wild. Yeah, especially in the Spectrum, it's hard to do. For New Mexico, this is surprising because I don't think they've had way better teams than this. As opposed to talent, I mean, they had obviously Dent, and they had House and Mashburn, who's a great scorer. I think this team fits together well more than I think having Donovan Dent as your main point guard kind of calms the game down. Like, Jalen House is a game wrecker on defense, but like was kind of erratic on offense. Mashburn shot it a lot like I feel like they have kind of a true identity this year where they're not gonna like last year they had a couple games where they lost in a row and it was kind of a weird middle of the year where they dropped, kind of out of the bubble. And I think this year's their team is it's more connected in that way where you don't have guys like, House was he was a really fun guy to watch, but also very erratic in how he played.
Yeah, he would kind of just go off the rails sometimes on offense, like come down to huck up a three.
Yeah, I think against Boise State last year, from our time watching him like live, like I think combined in the 2 regular season games, he was like 2 for 25 from like 3 or something crazy like that. Where, and then they go on the run in the conference tournament and make it to the NCAA tournament. But this team seems way more kind of level, not this like up and down type season that they had last year. So
yeah, no, I would agree. I would agree with that.
I mean, keeping it in the Patino family.
Yeah.
I don't know if there's a better fit than Rick Pitino, Madison Square Garden, St. John's defense basketball. It just like fits.
Yeah, New York's team.
Yeah, it's they're really fun to watch. Don't make a lot of shots very often, but my God, they are really good defensively. Like I think St. John's and Houston are kind of the 2 teams that are similar in that way, where it's like they could win some games in the 50s if they needed to, but St. John's first in the Big East right now. They're really fun to watch, really good team defensively, and that's gonna help you out and going forward.
Yeah, I mean defense travels like you see with Houston every year. Doesn't matter how many shots you make. Matters how many shots you don't let the other team make. So
I think the biggest thing with that though is like Houston in the NCAA tournament. Every year that they've lost, it's their offense is way too bad. Mm-hmm. It's and I think St. John's is better offensively than Houston is, like of the past, because when Houston's lost in the NCAA tournament, they can't buy a bucket and they're scrapping for like every point they can get. I think Houston has some good scorers as well. Or Houston this year has better scores, and I think St. John's does too. So
yeah, definitely. I mean, we're in for a treat for these conference tournaments.
Yeah,
these big Power 4, Power 5 conferences. Anything could happen, especially. I definitely
feel like outside of the SEC, where we kind of know, but even in the SEC, someone could win it. But like ACC right now, like Clemson looks pretty good. They beat Duke and they could go on a run. There's some other teams kind of mixed in there. The Big 12 is kind of all over the place with teams winning. Arizona looks pretty good, and then they lost last night. Like Kansas State at one point had lost like 7 in a row. They've rattled off like 6 straight wins or something like that. Like some of these conference tournaments are going to be wild, I think.
Going back to Cooper Flagg and Duke, he once again in a clutch moment he slips. I don't know if that's just what's going on, whether that's just he's out of control or someone with the shoes. He's a New Balance guy.
I will say that one seemed like it was the floor, but it's also like, dude, I don't know what else to.
It's like
that's the 3 times. Yeah. Like it's kind of a trend now.
I know.
But who knows, man? Like he's such a good player, but those are the type of things that you're like, well, in the tournament game on the line, he's gonna have the ball, so he's either gonna score it or he's just gonna fall down, I guess. But I mean, I still think they're a major contender to win the national championship, no doubt. But Clemson's also a really good team, and they seem like a team that can make a run again, like last year.
I feel like this is discussed every single year with the court storming.
Yeah.
As in the Duke Clemson game, Clemson beats Duke at home, and for the most part, it's clean. But there's always those group of students. Maybe they're a little drunk, a little hammered, but they go right at Duke, like right at the players. And there's a clip of Shireman, or not Shireman.
John Shire.
Yeah, John Shire.
He was trying to like protect his guys, but of course when they're getting bombarded by drunk kids,
Yeah.
basically. You're going to be a little protective. So
he pushed that guy down, which is fair, right? In my opinion, you got to protect your guys.
Yeah.
You don't know what these dudes
Yeah.
do, especially last year with Filipowski and Wake Forest.
Yeah.
That whole thing where
Yeah.
he hurt his ankle. I'm not gonna say he did.
I think he
didn't.
came back the next
Yeah,
game. But
he did. He was getting carried off, and it can be dangerous. But
I think they should just say, instead of being like, don't storm the court, I think they should encourage it, but wait like 30 seconds.
yeah,
So if the school was like, we're going to storm the court, we're going to like, we're going to do it if we win, but wait 30 seconds, and like, that's also one of those things where I'm cool with being like, hey, we're not going to shake hands, like do the NBA. Yeah. Hey, you guys go ahead and storm the court, respect. You won the game. We'll get out of here.
I saw, obviously in close games where it comes down to the last possession, this isn't feasible, but Shire was trying to call a timeout like at the very last second
and
to
just
get his players out of there.
Exactly.
Also as a player, you got to know, get the heck out of there.
Yeah. No, and yeah, if it's a game where if you're playing the number one team in the country and you're up by 10 with 10 seconds, the referee should just be able to say, hey, timeout. Everyone on the opposing team, get out of here. Let it run out. Storm the court. Something like that.
Put the walk-ons in.
Yeah.
Let them take.
Yeah. Let the scout team run for the last 10 seconds and get your Cooper Flags of the world out of there before someone dumb does something. So.
But I do love, of course, storming. It's part of the sport. It's part of what makes college hoops college.
Oh yeah, and the best part about that game was Dickie V back.
Oh yeah,
it was fun to watch, and this is where I get into my gripe with ESPN because, and also this could go on very conspiracy. So obviously the massive trade in the NBA with Luka and stuff. So they figure out that early in the week we're gonna clear the schedule for the Laker game. And then like Thursday, the Lakers say, oh, LeBron and Luka aren't playing. Yeah. So now in the middle of the ESPN slate is this NBA game that no one wants to watch now. So we missed like the first half of the Clemson Duke game. And like we missed like the Dick Vitale like coming on the floor and all that stuff. So they like try to redo it. But like the whole point, and this goes back to like ESPN, where for some reason for college basketball they think that it's still a 2-hour time slot, and it's not just ESPN. We've seen like CBSN, like they do the same thing where Boise State and Utah State are playing, and we're stuck with like Villanova and Providence, who are just fouling in a 10-point game. Like
that pissed me off.
Yeah. For some reason, collectively, all the TV networks have said, "Oh, college basketball is just 2 hours." It's just not now, especially when they're pumping commercials. Yeah, like it's just not. So I don't know how that needs to be fixed, but
yeah. Also, there's no problem with this game's a 20-point game, or we're doing post-game interviews for like the Lakers game. Let's just switch it to the other game. Yes, that game was on before, and people are watching that, but nobody cares. It's 20 points.
Here's what needs to happen is all the TV networks need to collectively hire guys like us to sit in a room and go, okay, Boise State and Utah State are about to tip in 2 minutes, and I've got Villanova and Providence playing. It's a 12-point game, the game with 2 minutes left, and they're fouling. Game's pretty much over. On the West Coast, let's just switch it now, because no one over here. We're all just waiting for that game to start. Let's just switch it now. We don't need, like, instead of saying, oh, we're going to start Boise State, Utah State on our app, and then we're going to switch it. It's
put that one on the app.
Put that one on the app for the West Coast or something like that, and switch it. It's crazy.
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't have, the thing is, what's weird about it is this never happens in any other sport. Like, imagine if you are a fan of, like, Alabama, and it's like Alabama, Tennessee college football, and you miss the first quarter because Iowa and Purdue are like, Iowa's running out the clock, and they're like, Purdue calls a timeout, and you're like, well, no one cares about this game in the South. switch it to our game. Like that would never happen.
No.
But apparently in college basketball, we still think 2 hours is good enough. It's weird.
I know it's weird, but here's my $1 million idea I've had. So you know how NFL Red Zone, Sundays, everybody loves it. Goes from game to game. We have a college basketball channel where on Saturdays they go from game to game, showing the best finishes, best highlights. It just flies.
And college basketball fans, like big college basketball fans, you want to see like, okay, we're gonna switch it over to like George Mason and Dayton or something, and it's coming down to the last 2 seconds. Oh yeah, I want to see the end of that.
That's what I do. Just sitting
like,
at home.
Like that's what everyone wants to do. So I think that's a great idea. You probably should get on that before someone steals it. But
that would be the next Scott Hansen for college basketball.
It's such a good idea because there's so many games. You're not going to be able to catch every finish. But if you have something like that where you can go, hey, we're going to switch from the first half of this game into, watch the finish of I think that would also help people learn some of these teams that, because there's always going to be the people who are like, how did this team make a run in the tournament? It's like, well, if you watch them, you'll know.
They're good.
They're good. But I'm totally with you on that. That would be cool.
Yeah. I'll trail you on the ESPN hate. So last week, ESPN was getting a lot of hate for their bubble watch little articles they come out with, and first of all, they solely base it on it's called the BPI. It's ESPN's own metric system that they came up with, and there is a conspiracy theory that it favors teams with ESPN contracts, so teams that play on ESPN opposed to like a Mountain West
which I believe is the SEC.
Yeah,
SEC, ESPN's main,
and then Big 12 sometimes.
Yeah, Big 12 and SEC.
But the thing is about the BPI is that they factor in like elevation as so you get punished for playing at elevation.
That makes no sense at all.
So like Wyoming, they are the highest elevation in college basketball. They lose points for that, which doesn't make
that makes no sense. Oh, because they think like it's an advantage for them.
Yeah.
Basically. Oh,
it takes in all of the factors, but anyway, so last week they had like North Carolina 86% chance to make the tournament as like an at-large bid, which if you know about them, they're not drawing dead.
Yeah,
like they are not good this year. And then also they had Missouri as like a 40% chance to make tournament, which
they're like the 15th ranked team in the country right now
in the SEC. They should be in. So that's another thing. Like ESPN college basketball, they don't really know what's going on.
And also, I know there's like they've talked about expanding the NCAA tournament. If you please go look at the 76th best teams in the country, because we would be putting in like Indiana, who they won actually against Michigan State last night, but like we'd be putting in. It doesn't benefit the mid-majors at all. We'd be putting in the bottom tier of all the major conferences in, which they don't deserve. It's not deserving at all.
We'd get like a Virginia from last year.
Yeah. You're putting in teams solely because for the months of January, February, and March, basically, they only play good teams. But if you lose every game, then every game's just like, oh, it's a quality loss. Yeah. So, like, it's at a perfect spot for me right now where it's like, because I know what would happen. It wouldn't be Mountain West teams getting another team in. It would be the Big Ten getting like an Ohio State, who's like middle of the pack, or not Ohio State, but like even farther down. Like these teams aren't good enough to play in the NCAA tournament, but because they don't play anyone bad, then their resume looks better.
Yeah, that's a big flaw. I mean, obviously with the SEC, every game is a good loss, a good win. But yeah, I don't know. I don't even want to think about expanding it. It's just a money grab.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I think it makes sense where it's at now, and if you even want to change it, like just make all the 16 seeded teams play a play-in, and then you can add a couple more teams that way. Mm-hmm. And like they make money off of those play-in games if they win. It's counted as an NCAA tournament win. So let them duke it out.
Yeah.
Instead of like you said, the Virginias who got in last year and they're spanked against like Colorado State. So
yeah. You have anything else from this past week before we move into?
I guess Coach Cal got the last laugh. Not the last laugh, but like that was a crazy environment that he walked into and they won. I don't know what I would think as a Kentucky fan. Like, I think they're in a way better spot, but it's also like they hyped up the game that he's returning, and they kind of assumed like it doesn't really matter how much, kind of how much are we going to beat him by, and then he comes in there and wins. Like,
it's like that Ohio State, Michigan kind of thing. Like,
yeah,
if you lose to that team, doesn't matter how your season goes.
So I just kind of, I think Kentucky's in a better spot without Calipari as their coach, but also like that's got to be a weird feeling where you're like, well, shoot, we just lost to him, so I don't know. Exactly like the Ohio State, Michigan thing where Ohio State wins a national championship, but Michigan fans go, well, we beat you, so I don't know.
Okay, so this weekend this doesn't happen very often, but the Iron Bowl of basketball is more important and more hyped up than the Iron Bowl of football.
Isn't that crazy?
Which it's not even called the Iron Bowl for basketball, but yeah, Auburn, Bama. It's in Auburn, right? Or is it in Bama?
Bama.
It's in Bama.
But 1 versus 2.
1 versus 2, which is you don't see that very often, regardless, even as a rivalry school. But yeah, who do you got for this game?
It's probably going to be like 90 to 100.
Yeah.
Just considering both teams, but I don't know. I could see Alabama at home winning this game. But I still think Auburn's like my national championship type pick. I think they're that good, but it's also just college basketball and like home environments matter a lot. So I think I would take Alabama. I don't know who's favored, but I would assume maybe Alabama's favored by a little bit, but
yeah, I can look. They probably don't have the lines out, but yeah, I mean, I'm gonna go Auburn. I think.
I mean, they are really freaking good,
yeah.
and it wouldn't surprise me at all. So, that's just gonna be a really, really good.
Oh, that's football.
That's football.
So Alabama says is an underdog. Whoa.
4.5 point.
4.5.
That'll probably move.
Yeah.
But
that seems like a lot.
I guarantee you there's gonna be a lot of Auburn bets coming in on that one if that's the line. But
that will move for sure.
That's probably gonna be like a 2 point spread. No, 2.5 point spread probably by Saturday when they play. So we'll see.
Yeah.
And then Creighton at St. John's will be a good one, and Creighton coming off the loss to UConn, and we talked about St. John's a little bit, but they play playing in Madison Square Gardens. They get that place rocking probably more than the Knicks this year.
Yeah, for real. That's gonna be a good one. Houston has Arizona. Arizona was hot. They lost to Kansas State last night. It was a tough game, but I'm gonna go Houston on this one.
Yeah, I think they will win. I think they'll win that one too. Arizona's kind of a funny team. Like if they do get hot though, going into March, like wouldn't surprise me if they're a team that makes a bit of a run. But Houston just they muck it up defensively. It's just wild how they play. It's like football on a basketball court, And then the Mountain West. Kind of again, like we talked about, like the 5 teams. A lot of the teams haven't even played each other a ton yet. Like Colorado State had kind of missed a lot of the big teams kind of early on. They're getting into their kind of meat of their schedule, and lost to Utah State. They beat San Diego State at home, and now Boise State goes down to San Diego State. What do you think about that game? Because that's kind of there's going to be a lot of desperate teams in the Mountain West, I think.
Yeah. I mean, it'll be a big game for sure. Boise State has kind of snuck their way into
into
the bubble, and I think this game is basically do or die.
I'll give a lot of credit to Boise State because they've lost 4 games in conference play, and it's all the teams above them. Like, they don't have the loss yet. Hopefully not. That of the lower team, like tiered teams in the conference. So like they're gonna have, and they've played all of them on the road, except for the San Diego State game, I guess. But that seemed like an eternity ago.
Yeah.
So San Diego State has just kind of spotted teams a lot of points right now too. I don't know. I don't know how if you can do that against some of the. You can do that against Wyoming and San Jose and work your way back, but like when you get into kind of the top tiers of the league, I don't know if you can spot teams 15 points at half and expect to come back.
Yeah, and for Boise State, like I was saying, if they lose this, they pretty much got to set their sights on the Mountain West tournament. But with a win, I mean, San Diego State's flirting with the bubble as well, and obviously they aren't as strong as they have been, but getting a win down there would be huge for your resume. And then they just got to close out their remaining.
I think a lot of kind of like the bracketologists and all that stuff, like they've put Boise State kind of back in like, hey, bubble, you're almost there, but you got to win down in San Diego. I think if they win that game, you kind of put yourself firmly back on the bubble because you play New Mexico at home, Utah State at home, Colorado State at home. Like you have all these games that you could get a lot of good wins, especially at home. So I think they're still firmly in play, but you definitely have to take care of business in San Diego, which is not easy to do.
No, it's hard to win down there, but it's gonna be a great game. And then Sunday
rematch,
a rare Sunday game. We got number 1 and number 2 in the Mountain West. Utah State at New Mexico. That'll be a fun one.
Yeah, New Mexico plays different at the Pit.
Yeah, you're already down 10 when you start there.
It'll be a crazy environment, but like, yeah, I don't know. I can't tell, like with Utah State, they obviously had a lot of games that they could have lost this year, and I think the matchup with New Mexico is really tough for them because Mexico is just really good. There's no doubt about it. So, especially. But then you watch last night Utah State, and when they're making threes and they're rolling like that, it's tough to beat them too. So they're probably going to want a little revenge down there. But to me, New Mexico probably wins that game.
Yeah, that place is going to be rocking too, especially 2:00 on a Sunday.
Yeah, a little Sunday matinee action down in the Pit, like that'll be wild. But both teams will be ready to go. Like that is also the thing with New Mexico is. And Utah State in that way, like, especially in those environments, like last night, Utah State goes up 36-12 or whatever against Colorado State, and the game's kind of over. And New Mexico's done that to like Boise State went down there, and it was immediately you just felt like it was 12-0, and the game's just kind of, the whole place just kind of collapsed on you. Like those are kind of the same way, but then you get into, kind of a battle, and you can hang with both of those teams, and both those teams can hang with each other. So I'll be interested to see it. It'll be fun.
Yeah, it's going to be a good weekend. Super Bowl.
Yeah.
We didn't have to see a Chiefs Super Bowl.
Yeah.
I was glad about, but
that was just kind of a dud, I guess. I don't know. Like I at that point I was just like, all right, yeah, we'll roll with the Eagles. I'm cool with that. It's a Super Bowl, so everyone's watching it. But yeah, it was. We haven't seen like a defense dominate like that since I think the Seahawks did against the Broncos like years ago.
That was crazy. Like, every time in the first half, Mahomes dropped back, he was getting pressured or sacked, which in the Super Bowl especially, I've never seen that. But besides Seahawks,
yeah, I think the late scores kind of helped the Chiefs look a little better, but I mean it was 34-0 for a while, and you're kind of like, wow, this is the biggest domination in Super Bowl history. And then Chiefs, Mahomes threw that ball that was like 70 yards in the air at the end of the game. Like, oh my god! But Cooper DeJean with the pick six, like
that was awesome.
They had some fun moments, and yeah, I was just laughing at all the celebrities and stuff that are Eagles fans. They have kind of a funny group of Shane Gillis and like Bradley Cooper, like hugging and stuff, like random people.
First, I love Cooper DeJean pick 6 because he was kind of like thought of as a meme. The only white corner.
He's really good though.
Yeah, he got a pick 6 in the Super Bowl. Like that's awesome. But yeah, I love Gilly.
Yeah,
he's awesome. The whole like blow the whistle thing.
Yeah,
with that broom guy. And
that was pretty funny. What about this? I do want to talk a little bit about this because the Luka trade. Is there a little bit of like in my opinion, I felt like a little bit, and maybe this is, I get like the Mavs, what they came out and said about it, but there's also a little bit that felt like this was an NBA like ploy, and I was kind of thinking about it, and I was like, it wouldn't put it past me to the NBA. Like if the Mavs were already considering this and they kind of threw it at the league, like wait until the Super Bowl week to do this, because if you remember Christmas Day, which has been dominated by the NBA, the NFL kind of took it over this year, and I have to imagine that there were some NBA people that were not happy with the NFL stealing some time slots on Christmas Day. Well, I also wouldn't be surprised if the NBA was like, hey, you want to steal some time slots on Christmas? We'll take the news over on Super Bowl week, because you didn't really have a lot of build-up because everyone was talking about the trade.
You have a good point there. I mean, considering how like random it was.
Yeah, that it wasn't like last-second deadline type thing.
It was literally like 2 hours before, a week before the Super Bowl.
Yeah,
on Saturday night.
Which makes it a little weird in my opinion. Because you didn't have a lot of build-up to the Super Bowl this year because everyone's talking about it.
With all like the talk of the NBA ratings being down and not a lot of people are watching it, like this definitely got people talking about the NBA again. And people, like I never watched the NBA, but I wanted to tune into Luka's first game.
I will say this too. There is a little piece of it that's like, do people care more about like these trades than the actual game? Because because the trade happens and everyone is talking about it, but I doubt a lot. Like I think a lot of people will watch like the first game that he played, but then it was like, all right, like okay,
it's more like the whole drama aspect of it.
It's like a TV show.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, this show's kind of boring, and then they change something crazy, and then you're like, okay, well,
a plot twist.
Yeah, and Anthony Davis gets hurt the first, like poor guy, but
poor guy, he can't stick away from the
game,
but
there's just a weird like part of me that's like, was that something? Like I'm sure the Mavs have maybe proposed something, and then the NBA was like, just wait till the week of the Super Bowl, and we're just gonna steal this whole thing, because no one was really building up like crazy to the Super Bowl this year. I felt like obviously it's a Super Bowl, so everyone's talking a little bit about it, but like the Luka trade was kind of dominating it for a while there.
Yeah, no, I would agree. What was I gonna say? I don't know.
Yeah, it's out there like as like a actual thing that would happen, but I don't know. I would assume the NBA is pretty pissed about the Christmas thing.
Oh, I know what I was gonna say. Like this is not the first time we've seen like these NBA conspiracies. One I think about is like how that whole Chris Paul trade got vetoed a long time ago. With David Stern, and it just didn't really make a lot of sense.
If Stern was the commissioner, that trade would never happen.
No.
Because that's crazy.
Yeah.
You know, he was always about like, he was kind of the anti like building teams like that. So he would have probably said, yeah, no, I'm not. Yeah. We're keeping a star in a smaller market because everyone's just going to watch LA now. So, but if that's what's going to get you ratings, but again, I'm like, I don't know who's actually going to be like tuning into every game now, just because.
Yeah, Lakers fans. That's
Lakers. Yeah, great for them, man. I mean, you get a massive star at a pretty young age, which is crazy, you know. Yeah. But we'll see.
And then one more thing, the whole Dalton Connect thing about.
Man,
that's because Williams.
Yeah, he failed his physical.
So he's kind of salty, which I don't blame
him, man. Yeah. He's back on the team that was like,
we don't want
which
you.
he was just drafted there. Yeah. Like, you kind of, you get drafted to a place, you at least assume, like, hey, I'm going to be here, a couple of years at least. Usually those guys aren't like traded to another team within 3 years. It's if they're sent down or sent to play in like the G League for a little bit, whatever, but you're still within that organization. To be shipped out, drafted, then shipped before the trade deadline of your first year I'd be pretty upset too.
Yeah. I mean, crazy stuff in the NBA.
Yeah.
Wild,
but again, it's also like, it just seems like a TV show. It's like, I don't even know what we're like. No one's really, I felt, the ratings are down and all that stuff. So it's like, this was definitely a spark, but I don't know if it's going to make it go way up in that way, but we'll see. Maybe it will. And I just don't pay attention enough to know, but, all I know is they made that huge deal on last Saturday to make sure that game was on, and they shifted everyone's schedule, and then those guys never played. Yeah. So
we're watching a backup Lakers player be interviewed while Clemson Duke is on. But yeah, we got a good weekend coming up.
Oh, also we talked about it last episode, but Mike Woodson stepping down. I think that means he's fired, but they don't want to say he's fired, that type of thing. So retiring. But then my favorite part about college sports is watching fan bases when they're going to look for a new coach, throw out like, oh, here's my hot list. Oh my God, you should see the Indiana fans. Like, realistically, have Brad Stevens, Bruce Pearl. I don't know if he is. They want Dusty May because he was there, but like, that's his first year at Michigan. Maybe he does bounce. That's probably the big one that I would assume they want. But also, like, do you want another guy who's like this loyalist to your? You already had Woodson, who was obviously a great player there and loves Indiana. But that's also it's kind of a weird thing in college sports where fans want, we saw it at Boise State, like Andy Avalos for football, like local legend, played at Boise State. He's not a great coach, and he gets fired, and now all of a sudden it's like this weird feeling when he's like, if I was a great player somewhere, I don't think I would really want to coach at the school I played for, because if it does go wrong, like that's such a weird feeling for fans,
Yeah.
So
I got one for Indiana. Bring back Tom Crean.
Oh man, he's great on TV. Yeah. I always liked Tom Crean. I mean, he wasn't a great. It's a tough program because they're also one of those where it's like, very rich history, but it's almost like USC in football, where it's like the history is there, but also you can't really use that to recruit, because kids nowadays, they don't remember like the undefeated team of like whatever that was, 70 or 80s, whatever, like Indiana's obviously a great program and they have a great fan base, but it's also like you can't really sell them on the history because it's so long ago now.
Yeah. They just care about the bucks.
Yeah, now it's just how much money you can get, and we'll see, man. I also, then I was scrolling through, and then the last one was obviously a joke, but Doug Gottlieb, maybe he could come and coach Indiana and move his radio show to Bloomington or something.
I'm sure that would work out great for their 2-win Green Bay team.
Yeah, not a lot of money to throw around for Green Bay right now, but maybe if Gottlieb can use some of that Sirius XM money, he can maybe throw some dough at some players.
That's funny. But yeah,
it'll be a good weekend, man. Excited.
I'm excited. We'll watch the games together and come back next week and discuss.
No, it'll be God, what is it? Like February 12th right now. Like we're a month away from kind of ending conference tournaments and stuff, and I think there's a weird feeling about some of these leagues where I'm like, man, I think we're gonna have some weird conference championship bid stealer and type of games coming up. Like, you never know.
Mm-hmm.
It'll be fun though.
Yeah, I'm excited. Well, thanks for watching. We will see you guys next week.
Yeah, see you next week, guys. Thanks.